What up, guys? The Bench Buddies are back with our NFL divisional preview and picks. As always, I have Ethan joining me to recap last week and look at this week's games. But before we get into it, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below. Get us to 500. We're a little over halfway there, and all you have to do is hit that subscribe button to be entered into our huge giveaway of an autographed item or two. Once again, just hit that subscribe button to be entered. But we'll have to look at last week. Obviously, I came out on top, as you can see, 5-1 with Tampa, costing both of us. But I'll obviously start here with biggest takeaway, the Jacksonville Jaguars game. Jaguars coming down 27-0, and they came back and win that one 31-30. And, T-Law never gave up. That offense never gave up. Doug Peterson knows how to coach in the playoffs. I think he's 5-1 all time in the playoffs. And, that's a very concerning thing. They're always the underdogs, and now you're going to see them go against the Chiefs this week. They're always the underdogs, not supposed to be there. So that could be a big storyline heading into this week.
Yeah, and we were right on most of these games. I mean, other than this Tampa Bay Dallas game, we were way off on that. Dallas just looked like clearly the better team. We were way off on that pick. But other than that, Buffalo, that was a really close game. Skylar Thompson and Miami almost they could have won that game very easily, could have beat Buffalo in Buffalo, which would have been very impressive. And then that San Francisco-Seattle game, tie game going into the half. San Francisco just really put it on them. I think Brock Purdy got rid of the yips a little bit. And so we're seeing all these teams in the second round, which is exciting.
Then we'll start, obviously, first game of the week, you get the Jaguars going on the road, going into Arrowhead against the Chiefs. And the big concern for me is Trevor Lawrence playing in such a hostile environment. He doesn't seem too concerned about it from early reports this week and what he said. He doesn't think it's going to be much louder than it was in Jacksonville, which is probably not going to happen. I'm assuming now that's just motivation for them to be even louder. And Mahomes has never been the underdog in the playoffs from a spread standpoint. And I think it's going to continue. He's going to get this win. And this team, it just seems like they're on a crash course for another AFC championship.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I think the Jags are going to make it a little bit closer towards the end, but it's going to be tough. It's going to be a tough game, but I do see Kansas City winning.
At 8:15 on Saturday, Giants, Eagles, and yes, you're looking at that correct. I am going to go with the Giants. I think this is one of those games where it's not that the Eagles don't show up. I think it's the Giants just have a lot to prove. They lost both of the meetings in the regular season. In Week 18, they played in Philly and lost by 6 with their third stringers. So maybe there's a glimmer of hope there with your whole starters out. Jalen Hurts was playing. He was still banged up at the time and whatnot. But, it kind of shows that this Eagles team isn't the same Eagles team they were 2 months ago. Some injuries in the secondary. Obviously, I mentioned Hurts, and he's still lingering. Who really knows how he's feeling, if he's actually 100%. And the Giants are just clicking on all cylinders right now, obviously going into Minnesota last week and getting a huge win and stopping the Vikings from, really having a good season. And I think Daniel Jones is going to be the key factor in this one. He will not outplay Jalen Hurts, but put up similar stat line. I think the wide receivers for the Giants are going to be the big question mark heading into this one. That's going to be the determining factor if the Giants can pull off the upset. I think they will, and I think they'll have a good game and slow down Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, I was very convinced that the Giants can pull this upset off, but I'm going to hold off. I like your pick. I like the Giants here. They're definitely going to cover, but I got to take the Eagles at home here. It's just something about that Eagles 49ers crash course. It seems that I think it's going to happen. I think it's going to be a really good game. And the Giants are going to turn a lot of heads because this was not what we were expecting this year. But I think it's going to be the last week that they play. I think the Eagles are going to advance.
Moving over to Sunday, you have probably, I think, the biggest game of the weekend for the two teams, involved. Obviously, the Bengals-Bills, last time these two teams met in Cincinnati, the whole Damar Hamlin incident. And, it's kind of spiraled. And, going through that, looking back, obviously, the Bengals got screwed in that situation. They canceled a game. Then they didn't get to play another game. If they theoretically would have beat Buffalo in Cincinnati, this game would be in Cincinnati right now. They would be the 2 seed. and yada yada yada. So the Bengals did the right thing, but got screwed in the end. And there's going to be that debate where this game should have been played in a neutral site because you don't really know what could have happened in that game if it proceeded to end, and all that stuff down the road that could have happened, coulda, shoulda, woulda. But I don't think that's going to matter because I think the Bengals are on a crash course for another AFC championship and another meeting with the Chiefs in Arrowhead. The Bengals are hot right now. We saw them, last week kind of put up a dud against the Ravens and struggle, but that defense came through when it mattered most. And I think that's going to be the biggest question mark again. There's no way that Joe Burrow is going to have a bad game against the Bills secondary, who gave up 31 to the Skylar Thompson and the Dolphins. And I think the Bengals got more weapons on the outside than the Dolphins do, because Higgins, Chase, and Boyd is better than Hill and Waddle and whoever the third is for the Dolphins. So it's going to be a tough matchup. And I think this game where the NFL tries to not help the Bills, because, you've seen the two last rule changes have helped the Bills. And this is going to be one where it's going to go touchdown in OT. And the Bengals are going to win that with McPherson field goal.
Yeah, I like it. I think it's going to be a much closer game than what this line's saying. I mean, a 5.5 line. I get it. The Bills are at home, and the Bengals. There's something to note. The Bengals' offensive line is a little bit banged up right now, so that could play a big effect. If the Bills can get pass rush, that could play a huge effect if they can get to Joe Burrow. But I think despite that, I do think the Bengals are going to win. I just trust Joe Burrow more than Josh Allen in the red zone, and I think Josh Allen could make a mistake in the red zone that could really hurt the Bills this week. He's great and all, but he does make some mistakes in those red zone. I think the Joe Burrow is a much more focused quarterback there in the red zone, and that's who I'm going to go with. I'm going to go with the Bengals.
In the last game of the divisional round, you got the Cowboys going on the road to face the Niners, and these teams date back all the way since pretty much football was born. It feels like since these two teams became franchises. You have the catch way back when, way before our time, and then you got as recent as last year in the same round, you got the Cowboys and Niners and Dak slide, and the spike was too late and whatnot. So the Cowboys have a lot to prove in this game. Their first win last week on the road since 1995 in the playoffs, as they're looking to build on that. And Mike McCarthy is 0-3 in the playoffs against the 49ers in his career. So why not this the week to do it? But I just don't think that's going to happen because the Niners are hot. They've won 11 in a row. Brock Purdy seems like he could be the franchise quarterback, maybe even the starter next year if he wins a Super Bowl with this team. Bring back all the weapons. You got McCaffrey, Debo, Kittle, and even Ayuk at this point in the season. And then the defense, obviously, is top 3 defense. So I think this one could be an under game. The defenses could show up, and I trust 49ers defense in crunch time more than the Cowboys.
I'm going with the Niners here as well. I think it's going to be a close game. Dallas really impressed me last week with the way they showed up against the Buccaneers and that defense. But I do think if the Cowboys can get to Brock Purdy and really put pressure on him, this could be a whole different story. But I think the Niners just have too many weapons. They're basically playing Madden out there. They got all their weapons out there, and they can just see what the other defense is in, and they can just make adjustments, and they just have so many weapons. And then, like you said, the defense, it's going to come down to huge stops. And the kicker, Brett Maher, missed 4 extra points last week after finally making one. So it just all signs point to the 49ers victory, and that's who I'm going to go with, 49ers NFC Championship game.
And that's going to be it for our video this week. Make sure you guys come back next week to see how we did and to see our picks for the NFC and AFC Championship game. But as always, hit that subscribe button to be entered into our giveaway. And until the next time, the Bench Buddies are out.
She never called back.